Sunshine and the First Amendment, the journalists' bread and butter. They're also the pillars of democracy, especially now. So it's fitting that we in SPJ NorCal tip our caps every year to individuals and organizations who have made major contributions to advance those twin causes. Among these champions whom we honor tonight are professional and student journalists, news outlets, citizen activists, whistleblowers, a nonprofit, attorneys, and an educator. Now let's meet them. I always give attorneys a hard time, but we all know we couldn't live without them. Right, Duffy? Tonight we honor two news outlets, the East Bay Times and NBC News Bay Area. In December 2016, a warehouse-turned residential art colony was leveled by a fire that was Oakland's deadliest ever. 36 people died, what came to be known as the Ghost Ship Fire. East Bay Times reporters Matthias Gaffney, Thomas Peel, and David DeBolt looked at police body cam videos, inspection data, and other public records. Their relentless digging resulted in a series of stories that exposed egregious public safety failures in Oakland. The list of honors for their outstanding work includes a Pulitzer Prize, not bad. The list grows tonight as we present the James Madison Award to the East Bay Times. Come on down.
Take a handshake, that's good.
I'm not sure what the award is. Who's doing it? Am I handling it? I'm doing the awards too?
Oh. Get this man some help. There we go. Sure.
Apartment building owners may create living space for family members or for themselves by evicting current tenants. But an investigation by NBC News Bay Area found that hundreds of landlords in San Francisco had wrongfully pushed out tenants in order to rent out apartments at higher market rates. It was an arduous task for the news team, entailing reviews of thousands of owner move-in evictions, and the resulting expose prompted a crackdown on illegal eviction practices and the passage of legislation to protect tenants. For that, a James Madison Award goes to NBC News Bay Area. Idaho has laws shielding agricultural interests from outside whistleblowers, so-called ag-gag laws. But the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has found that one of the provisions banning recording inside factory farms targeted free speech and investigative journalists, violating the First Amendment. For their successful challenge, we thank the Animal Legal Defense Fund, our James Madison Award winner in the nonprofit organization category.
Well, thank you. It's incredibly gratifying for our transparency work to be recognized by the journalistic community. At the Animal Legal Defense Fund, our transparency work is central to the work that we do to protect the lives and advance the interests of animals. And that's because so much of the suffering that's inflicted on non-human animals takes place in the shadows, whether that's a factory farm in Iowa or a puppy mill in California. Those who exploit animals thrive on keeping that exploitation secret. And so we've worked with journalists as individuals as plaintiffs, organizations, press organizations as amicus in our cases to challenge laws that criminalize undercover investigations at factory farms and slaughterhouses. We've worked with journalists to challenge laws that make it illegal to take a photograph of wolf hunters on public land. And we've worked to fight efforts by the USDA to keep animal welfare inspection reports hidden from the public under the Freedom of Information Act. And so we look forward to continuing to work together to make sure that the stories of animals are told. Thank you so much.
In my zeal to have this the shortest program ever, I forgot to let you guys say a few words. Neil, please come on back. NBC Bay Area, please come on back.
Nobody needs to hear from me. I just enjoyed hearing my hourly update from Bob without having to turn on the radio. It's a privilege to accept the award tonight. As the person here, of all the people who attended, who did the least work to get this award, there's a table full of reporters over here who did amazing work. There was the fire, there was a breaking news story that a lot of folks in this room covered, and this story is by far not over, right? We are still working on it, there's more to come. What the ghost ship fire taught us was that there's a lot out there that's going on that we need to know about that needs investigative journalism digging into it, and we're doing a lot of work on it. Not only all the journalists whose job title says journalist, but the other hardest working journalist in our organization, Duffy Carolyn, who masquerades as a lawyer, but is actually the best assignment editor on our team. And make sure these people are working. For some reason, when she gives them an assignment, they do it, and when I give them an assignment, they don't. But it's a wonderful partnership, and we appreciate all the help, and we're not done with this story, so we'll keep on it. Thank you.
Like any smart reporter, I followed the lead of my producer, and when he didn't say anything, I was like, just leave. I think most of us would attest that the search for truth isn't exactly glamorous. It was actually my brilliant producer here, Michael Bott's idea to actually go door to door for 6 months, knocking on some 300 doors in San Francisco as part of this investigation. And Michael and I had people slam their doors in our faces, literally. One woman called our station threatening to file a restraining order against me. And one woman actually yelled, I remember her screaming from her front lawn. She was like, "Get a real job!" And I remember immediately having flashbacks of my Egyptian parents when I told them I was going to major in journalism instead of pre-med. So fortunately, we continued on with our investigation, and we exposed widespread abuse and corruption that may have actually led to hundreds of people being wrongfully evicted in San Francisco. In fact, one lawmaker described it as a full-fledged crisis. Eventually, what followed were a series of government hearings and one of the largest housing reform efforts in San Francisco's recent history. So tonight, I would actually like to dedicate this award to a very, very special woman, a very loud woman, that woman who told us to get a real job. This is for you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Having a door slammed in your face. No, never happened. Anybody else have it happen to them? No. Oh, we honor a pair of individual journalists tonight. Lisa Pickoff-White of KQED and Jennifer Wadsworth of San Jose Inside and the Metro newspaper. Lisa's diligent public record searches fueled KQED's coverage in several areas, including increased immigration detentions under the Trump administration, a seemingly endless struggle to desegregate San Francisco schools, and the fires that devastated the North Bay last October. A James Madison Award goes to KQED's Lisa Pickoff-White, who I know from her time with us on the Chauncey Bailey Project.
Thank you. When I first moved out to California almost 11 years ago, I didn't even know what data journalism was or that it was a job that I could do. I had worked as a print reporter in DC before that. And I just want to thank a lot of people in this room because without their mentorship and their help, I would never be where I am now. And I am just so excited to keep filing public records. In fact, I just got a new ICE Foia this morning. So thank you all so much.
Jennifer Wadsworth and her newspaper, the Metro, had to go through expensive legal fights to obtain records to expose malfeasance by Milpitas City Manager Tom Williams. But their persistence and their intercedence by the First Amendment Coalition paid off. Their diligent efforts enabled Jennifer to shine a spotlight on Williams' misuse of public funds, including the filing of a personal $1 million lawsuit against Mayor Rich Tam. Jennifer's stories prompted the City Council to fire Williams, ending a 12-year long reign of abuse. And for that, she gets James Madison's Pro Journalist Award. Jennifer Wadsworth.
Thank you so much. As the only news reporter for a weekly that covers a county of 1.8 million people, it can be hard to keep up with everything that's going on in all the little towns around San Jose, but I think I knew a few years ago that Milpitas special attention. So I began reporting on some of the abuses by the city manager back in 2015, and it really came to a head this past year, and I want to thank the First Amendment Coalition for stepping up and helping me out when I was sued. One of 2 times I was sued last year for my work, and they really were a big help in getting the rest of the records released. So thank you so much.
And I told her, remind me never to make her mad at me. We're always pleased to see students take an interest in journalism. It bodes well for the future of our profession. And journalists at our schools, colleges, and universities often break on-campus stories of importance to their surrounding communities. Such is the case of Gabriel Sandoval of Cal State Chico, who regularly uses public records to bring the workings of government agencies to light. One such exposure occurred in 2017, when Gabriel reported that the university paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to its former VP of Business and Finance, Lori Hoffman, when she didn't even work there anymore. The James Madison Award goes to Chico State student Gabriel Sandoval.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank the Society of Professional Journalists of Northern California for this recognition. And I'd like to thank Dave Waddell, my mentor. He nominated me for this award. He's been a champion of student journalism for many, many years. And I'd also like to thank all the mentors out there who help student journalists and help them get the skills that they need to do good work in the future. So thank you for this award.
We have 2 recipients in the citizen category tonight, Susan Fowler and Dr. Joel Moskowitz. Through movements such as Me Too, Time's Up, and as we heard at this year's Oscar ceremony, Inclusive Writer, women are raising public consciousness to their right to respect in the workplace and elsewhere. Susan Fowler was one of the first women in the tech industry to speak out at what became the Me Too movement. She blew the whistle on workplace sexual harassment at Uber, giving voice to women both in and outside of the tech industry. We honored Susan tonight with the James Madison Award. Susan could not be here tonight. I don't know why. I think she's busy doing something else, or maybe her Uber didn't show up. I don't know. It is no surprise when a company or an insider industry over-concerned with profits tries to keep the public from learning that its product might pose a personal or public health risk. But it's unforgivable when an agency charged with protecting our health joins in that stonewalling. That's what prompted action on the public's behalf by Dr. Joel Moskowitz, the director of the Center for Family and Community Health at UC's Berkeley School of Public Health. Dr. Moskowitz successfully sued under the California Public Records Act to secure the release of a report commissioned by the State Department of Public Health on cell phone radiation. For that, Dr. Joel Moskowitz gets a James Madison Award.
I'd like to thank the 4 people who nominated me and the Northern California Society of Professional Journalists for selecting me for this award. I'd also like to thank the many wireless safety advocates and journalists who assisted me during the past 9 years in raising awareness about cell phone and wireless radiation health risks. I share this award with all of you, and many of them are here today. Deserving special recognition are the law students and attorneys from the UC Berkeley Environmental Law Clinic and the First Amendment Project, who worked on our successful lawsuit against the California Department of Public Health, or CDPH. The 2 lawyers are here today as well. Thank you for coming. Our federal government, corporations, and most people are ignorant or in denial that cell phone radiation may have serious health consequences, even though 237 scientists from 41 nations who published more than 2,000 papers on electromagnetic fields have called for health warnings and stronger regulations. In 2014, I learned from a wireless safety advocate that CDPH drafted cell phone safety recommendations in 2009, but never released them because the state worried about offending the telecom industry and creating public panic. This was according to their lawyer in our lawsuit. Under the California Public Records Act, I submitted 3 requests for the cell phone safety documents. The requests were denied. CDPH also denied independent requests submitted by reporters from the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal after I helped them with other cell phone stories. 2 years ago, the Berkeley Environmental Law Clinic and the First Amendment Project sued CDPH on my behalf. Last March, the court ordered the agency to release the draft documents. The SF Chronicle and other news media published the draft guidelines. Finally, in December, CDPH finalized their cell phone safety guidance and published it online. To date, more than 200 journalists from 48 countries have reported on the CDPH cell phone safety guidance. There are a lot of stories to be reported still on cell phones, cell towers, and other wireless devices. Thank you very much.
We have 2 awards tonight in the whistleblower category, one in government and one in the private sector. In 2011, Joanne Hoeper, who was chief trial attorney in the San Francisco City Attorney's Office, began investigating suspicious-looking sewer repair claims. She documented fraudulent practices, inflated payments, and lax monitoring within her own office. And when her investigation led to members of the City Attorney's Office, Dennis Herrera's inner circle, Hoeper lost her job. She fought back, filing a whistleblower lawsuit that resulted last March in the jury awarding her $2 million, which they later raised to $2.6 million. We're pleased tonight to present a James Madison Award to Joanne Hoeper.
Thank you so very much. I'm really honored to be in front of this group of distinguished citizens and journalists who are all trying to do the right thing under difficult circumstances. There are a couple thank yous. Most of all, thank yous to my lawyers who had the courage to take on the elected city attorney of San Francisco. I want to call out Steve Murphy, who he did not know me from anybody, and he signed up and took my case on. He's now a San Francisco Superior Court judge, but thank you, Steve. I want to thank, and then I want to thank Karl Olson and Therese Canada. So exactly 1 month to the day before I was set for a jury trial here in San Francisco, Steve Murphy was appointed to the San Francisco bench. And Therese Canada and her law firm stepped up and took the case, and with 30 days away, facing Dennis Herrera, the city attorney, and John Kecker of Kecker and Van Est, they were all like, hey, no problem, we'll try the case. And they did. So. And one of the lovely things is that these men, Mr. Herrera and Mr. Kecker, completely underestimated Therese Canada. I guess they have a habit of doing that with women. But it brought to mind the old adage from the quote from the Princess Bride movie, which is never go against a Sicilian when death is on the line. So when I was, as any whistleblower knows, when you blow the whistle, you risk your career, your job, your reputation, and you're labeled immediately a disgruntled former employee. Well, I was certainly labeled a disgruntled former employee, and I am disgruntled. And I continue to be disgruntled that people who betray the public trust still have their jobs, while those who try to hold them accountable don't, or they lose their careers and their jobs. And I suspect that a lot of people in this room are equally disgruntled by the callous, cowardly attacks on the press, one of our great democratic institutions. So if you're disgruntled, as I am, I brought a bunch of buttons. You should be disgruntled as a badge of honor. You wear your badge proudly. So pick up your disgruntled button on the way out, wear it proudly, be disgruntled, and then go out and do something about it. Thank you.
Our other whistleblower honoree is Jessenia Cutrone, one of the first Wells Fargo employees to call attention to the bank's sham credit account scandal. As a new Wells Fargo teller in 2008, she noticed that employees were being pressured to create accounts that customers had not authorized. She reported the misconduct to Human Resources and to Wells Fargo CEO John Stumpf. They ignored her warnings. They fired her in 2010. Since Wells Fargo's misdeeds came to light in 2013, Guitron has been publicly credited for sounding the early warnings. She has testified before Congress and in a criminal case against the bank. We recognize her tonight with the James Madison Award. Before you clap, there's a letter here that comes from Daryl Whitman. He says, 2 years ago, the Northern California Society of Professional Journalists generously gave me a James Madison Freedom of Information Award for my work exposing corruption in OSHA's Whistleblower Protection Program. I was unable to attend the awards dinner in person that year, have not been able to return to the U.S. for the last 3 years. However, tonight I want to applaud the Society for making a similar award to Ms. Jessenia Cutrone, who has tirelessly worked to expose consumer fraud and whistleblower abuse by Wells Fargo Bank. Jessenia Cutrone.
Gotta look good for the pictures and post them later. I want to do a little something different with everyone. So I'm really good with numbers and just numbers float around my head. But if everybody, or as many people as they can, get their cell phones and help me do something. So back in 2008, when I started working for Wells Fargo in St. Helena, a town of 5,000 people, where we have 14 different banks, Wells Fargo expected each banker to open 8 accounts. So there was 5 bankers for the St. Helena branch alone. So if you do 5 times 8 equals 40. So the branch in St. Helena needed to open 40 accounts a day. So now, if you divide for the population of St. Helena of 5,000 people, if you divide 5,000 divided by 40, that gives you 125 days. So in 125 days, every single person in St. Helena would have had an account. And then I would have been out of job. So something just didn't register. And then I started noticing a big pattern. You know, people are coming in and reporting that there's funky things happening to their accounts. And I just did what I was told to do. My instructor told me, if you notice something funny, report it. So I did. And my manager didn't know anything. So I called my trainer. Remember you told me to report it? Well, you should go to your HR. I did. HR didn't do anything. But they say call the ethics hotline. I did. I did it by phone. I did it by email. I did it by the website. Nothing ever happened. So I don't know what possessed me to continue going, because really all the odds were stacked against me. So today I'm really delighted to be here. And I'm very grateful. And this award is a big validation of the work that I've put in for the last 10 years. I lost my job. A little different from my counterpart. I didn't win my case. My case happened in 2010, but we all now know that Wells Fargo's admitted to have opened all those fake accounts, and they admitted 2013. So I'm still fighting for a case. I hope that I get the opportunity to do something and continue to bring the awareness. I also want to thank Derek Kerr for nominating me. I was very curious as to who had nominated me, because I didn't win the case. I'm like a nobody. So he said because he was a whistleblower himself and because I didn't win. So that means a lot to me, and for that I'm very grateful. I also want to acknowledge all the reporters and all the journalists that without your help, I couldn't expose the case. I couldn't spread the word the way that it has been spread. So thank you very much for that. Special thanks to my family, my husband, my kids, because they've been putting up with me with a lot of crazy stuff and a lot of very crazy last 10 years. So I'm sure I've missed several people. Thank you everyone on table number 1, and thank you for everyone that's here. And I need to get me one of those buttons because I really need one. Or a stay warm. Thank you.
In early March of 2017, the state Supreme Court ruled that communications that occur in the conduct of official business are subject to the California Public Records Act, even when personal software or devices are used for those communications. The decision concluded that an 8-year-long legal fight touched off when San Jose officials refused to disclose such communications to private citizen Ted Smith. Tonight we honor the attorneys who carried the day for Smith and for sunshine before the state Supreme Court. The James Madison Award for Legal Counsel goes to Karl Olson of the law firm Canada, O'Toole, Fix, and Almazan, and to James McManis of McManis Faulkner. Accepting the award for James is his colleague, Christine Peak.
Thank you, everyone. As previously noted, I am not James McManis. I'm Christine Peak. I'm Jim's partner, and I've worked with Jim on the case since when it was in the trial court. Jim apologizes that he can't be here in person because he's scheduled to give a speech at Peking University in China on the rule of law. But I'm happy to be here to thank the Northern California Society of Professional Journalists and accept this award on his behalf. We filed this case to make sure that public officials' writings that they keep in order to do their jobs can't be hidden from the public in private accounts. We thought that was a critical policy concern, an overriding concern, so we were obviously very disappointed when all 3 members of our 6th District Court of Appeal panel disagreed with us and ruled for the city. But we and our client, Ted Smith, kept fighting all the way to the Supreme Court and ultimately secured a 7-0 victory, this time in our favor. So, but it took a lot of hard work from a lot of people to make this result happen. We're grateful not only to our client, Ted Smith, for his persistence and the other partners of McManis Faulkner for sticking with this case even when things weren't looking so good for us, and to Karl Olson, who shares this award with us and whose help was invaluable, and to all of our other amici, including the Society, and many of whom are represented here in this room, and to all of the wonderful journalists for reporting on it. So thank you all very much.
I'd like to first thank my family, my wife Carolyn Johnston, and my kids, Mark Olson and Jack Olson, who born with me for all these many years, been fighting for the First Amendment and put up with a lot of late nights. I'd like to thank my 20-year-long law partner, Mike Ram, who's been a great source of moral support for all these years. And Jo Hoeper talked about her whistleblower battle, and it's not generally known that Mike did the mock cross-examination of Jo Hoeper, and he did a better job than the lawyers that charged the city $5 million to defend the case. I'd like to thank Therese Canada, who's a delight to practice with, who stepped up to the plate for Jo Hoeper on very short notice, and Aaron Field from our firm, who did a great job on the briefs in the San Jose case. This is the James Madison Award dinner, but it was another Virginia president, Thomas Jefferson, who said that if I had to choose between government without newspapers or newspapers without government, I should not hesitate to choose the latter. The more things change, the more they stay the same. In an era when our government officials are betraying our trust, and when you have people like Dennis Herrera, who just don't seem to do any of their government business on a government server, but do it all on a private email. You have to depend on newspapers. You can't depend on Cambridge Analytica to shine a light on misconduct and government. So I'm very grateful to all of my friends and colleagues in the news business and my wonderful clients over the years and the nonprofit organizations like the First Amendment Coalition and this group who are fighting these battles for sunshine. So keep making those Public Records Act requests and always ask for their emails on their private phones. Thank you.
Another citizen who has expanded access to electronic records is Ben Friedland. The records in this case deal with crimes that occur on BART property. Friedland, a frequent BART commuter, found that BART officials talked a good game when it came to transparency, but getting crime information from the agency's website was impossible. So he created his own website, bartcrimes.com, making BART's police reports publicly available. Quite a few fellow commuters have thanked him, and now SPJ NorCal thanks him as well with a James Madison Award, Mr. Ben Friedland.
Thank you, good evening. Last year I created bartcrimes.com with the intent to expose public crime data on the Bay Area Rapid Transit District, BART. BART police went out of their way to hide this information, and many tried to convince me that there were good reasons to keep it silent. I was pressured to feel as if I was doing something wrong. That's when I knew I was doing something right. I believe that it is only when the public is exposed to a problem that they're empowered to do anything about it. BART had a problem, and the public has begun acting to address that problem. It's a pleasure and honor to accept the James Madison Electronic Access Award Oh, I lost my place. I'll proudly keep this as a reminder that there are many more of us out there. Thank you so very much.
In December 2004, SPJ and the journalism community lost one of their greatest benefactors when Beverly Kees was struck and killed by a big rig in a San Francisco crosswalk. She was a beloved professor at San Francisco State who had previously headed the Freedom Forum's West Coast office. She was also a past president of SPJ NorCal. Her passion for journalistic excellence and for sunshine was infectious. Wanting best memory to live on, SPJ NorCal has named the Foia Award for educators in her honor. This year's recipient is Marcy Burstiner, who teaches investigative reporting at Humboldt State University. Burstiner teaches her students how to harness the power of the California Public Records Act. The class project she most recently led has received national recognition. It focused on why so many Humboldt State students are forced to live in cars or sleep on friends' couches. She is the author of investigative reporting From Premise to Publication. SPJ NorCal is pleased to present its Beverly Kees Educator Award to Marcy Burstiner.
I teach in a place called Humboldt County. Anyone been there? Yeah, there's really nothing to do up in Humboldt County except file public records requests. Thanks.
I actually go up there to see my son, who lives in Eureka. Now we come to our Career Achievement Award, named in memory of the late Norwin S. Yoffie. He was a tireless fighter for sunshine and the First Amendment, both during and after a distinguished tenure as a publisher of the Marin Independent Journal. He also co-founded the SPJ NorCal Freedom of Information Committee. The other co-founder is with us tonight, Bruce Brugman. Bruce, take a bow. Come on, Bruce, get up, there he is. Norwin Norwin's wife, Sandra, sends her regrets that she and their sons, Michael and Jonathan, cannot be with us tonight. Sandra tells us also that SBJ NorCal has made a great choice in picking this year's Career Achievement Award winner, Sandy Close. Wait. Sandy, wait. Sandy is executive director. I got more to say. Come on up. Sandy is executive director of the Pacific News Service and New America Media. When you talk about contributions to sunshine, we mean it not only in the conventional sense of Foia. Pacific News Service and New America Media have, for nearly 5 decades, contributed mightily to raising public awareness and giving voice, in other words, bringing sunshine to minority communities. Racial and ethnic minorities, or LGBTQ populations, or elderly, or youth, and are physically handicapped have long been underrepresented, misrepresented, or unrepresented in both the coverage and the staffing of our mainstream media. Pacific News Service and New America Media have helped countless minority journalists and minority-owned news outlets tell us about their communities, about their cultures, their histories, their challenges. And they've done so under the expert and caring guidance of Sandy and her late husband, Fran Sherman. On the FOI side, Sandy agreed to have New America Media serve as nominator every 2 years of a journalist on San Francisco's Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. Finding somebody qualified and willing to serve on the task force is at times difficult. But Sandy took on the responsibility because she cares deeply about government transparency. She's now this evening, we have another reason to say thank you to Sandy. She's written a check to help SBJ NorCal defray the cost of tonight's banquet. Wait a minute. As you know, Pacific News Service and New America Media ceased operations last November, and the organization's dissolution is due to be concluded at the end of this month. Something you probably already know about Sandy is that in August of 2007, a journalist named Chauncey Bailey was murdered. Not too long after that, within a couple of days, Sandy and Dory Maynard got together and said, you know what, let's do something about this. Let's put together a journalism collaborative to make sure that Chauncey's work gets done. It became the Chauncey Bailey Project, probably one of the most expansive and successful journalism collaboratives ever. It's even, in my mind, it's even more successful than the Arizona Project, because the Arizona Republic didn't publish their findings of their investigation. But look at all the newspapers and the radio stations and TV stations that published the work of the Chauncey Bailey Project. Nobody but Sandy could have got us all in the same room, in the same restaurant over in Berkeley at one time, sitting there saying, here's what we're going to do. And nobody but Sandy could get us all in that room at the Tribune where it was like herding cats. We were told to leave our egos at the door. Nobody but Sandy could have done that. Sandy Close, you are a treasure.
Thank you. I have a few short remarks. Richard Nee said, Sandy, you've got to talk. And I said, at the end of a long dinner, maybe 2 minutes. He said, no, really, use it. Take advantage of a brief platform. But before that, I just want to say what a tremendous honor and surprise it was for me to walk into this room tonight and find my OGs of Pacific News Service all at one table, who really are, this goes back to 1975, to have colleagues who were there for me when I really didn't know very much and who put their faith in our effort. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. And along with that, I want to say something. I lived in dread for 5 years of my organization having to fail. I really didn't think it would happen. But when you lose the confidence of your board and they freak out and they pull the plug because you've accumulated debts and you're convinced, even debt-ridden as I am, I continue to invest. The fact is, I believed more in the work than I did in the name. So I let it go, and the staff all got good jobs moving forward, which was most important. The debts were forgiven or absorbed. The work has been sustained, for which I'm very grateful. I'm able to remain in the field, and I have to say I don't have regrets for overextending and under-resourcing all those years, but you do lose your respect for yourself. You wake up at night, you turn on Netflix to get the demons to go, and you wonder, Lord, how did I let that happen? I have to give you a shout out. You, my colleagues in mainstream media, rallied, not just mainstream, but all the things we talk about now, independent, nonprofit, all of you. You interviewed me, I kept saying I screwed up. No, it's the work. You did stories, you sent emails, you took me out, and you restored my sense of self-respect. Thank you. Tonight is part of that. Thank you very much. The awkward thing about a Career Achievement Award is that it seems to mark the end of things. It's almost like an obit. But I have to tell you, I feel different from that. I feel still like I'm on the edge of new beginnings. I'm inspired by new possibilities. We heard many references to new possibilities right here in this room. And just to share a few glimmers of what those possibilities are with you. Do some of you remember 20 years ago when, in a kind of fit of breastfeeding about the death of journalism, because we as journalists always like to pronounce the death of things, there was a piece in The Atlantic. I don't remember who wrote it. It was a former editor at the New York Times. And it berated us for the sin of smugness. Well, today, we're the enemy of the people. We are the purveyors of fake news. And you know what? We're all in it together. It's no longer mainstream media, it's no longer alternative media, it's no longer ethnic media, it's all of us. We're all branded. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. For us who were inspired to want to reflect who we are becoming, the extraordinary diversity, collaboration is now a good word. I grew up in Stalag 17, it was a terrible word. And now collaboration is the mantra. We can't do it alone, we have to do it together. That's a good thing. We want to tell stories from the inside out, not the outside in. And it reminds me of the ancient Greek word, polis, the public space where civilized people were, and it excluded the idiots, the women and the slaves. Today, we know enough, all of us, that the stories we need to cover from the inside out are the idios. We're the idios in the polis, and we need to be out there. We need to be outside the polis and explain what is happening in this world around us from the inside out. youth journalism, working with young people, the super predators of the 80s and 90s, man, they taught me how important it was to go beyond journalism to actually communicate. What communication can mean. Harper's great editor, Nick Lehman, wrote about the death of literature, and the kids in juvenile hall were inventing language, Foshizova. Hip-hop, the throb of the youth culture, was to conversate, to communicate, to connect. And today I see the same new stirrings going on in that field. In Richmond, a youth publication no longer defines its target audience by ethnicity. It's rather like the early mainstream publishers defines it by geography. We're going to explain who we are becoming as a city entire. That's its inspiration. The edge of the youth culture more and more is moving from the inner city to the outer suburb. So the kids in Bay Point, Antioch, Pittsburgh, Vallejo, when they write, they text. It's hard to edit text. But they want it in print. What do I show grandma? Print still matters to them, but more important, the impulse to witness, to bear witness, to document. I don't know what's happening out there, but I know I need to know. And I know there's a stirring out there of 10 kids interviewed for a special edition we did. Only one really wanted to move into Silicon Valley. The rest wanted to open new businesses in their own communities. Very entrepreneurial and very home-based. Very different from the kids of the 80s and 90s, and yet these are the same kids. These are the children of those kids. And finally, ethnic media, which has been a tremendous parallel universe of news for me. Growing old, says AARP. Monolingual at this point. Community, who's my community? Not sure I know, but ethnic media does. And you know, like all of us, this sector, which Chauncey Bailey was such a tremendous partner in, very courageous, breaking taboos in your own community. That's about as tough as it can get. This media sector, well, it's going to fade. It's going to die off. Even people in the sector wonder, can we survive? India West, a tremendous example. It makes $38 a week on online advertising. And of course, its print ads are shrinking. That's only a little example, but guess what? These media have endured against the odds for many years, and India West converted the ground floor of its building to a rental space and asked the journalists to report from home. It's paying its printing costs. El Tecolote has supported itself for years on Saturday bingo nights. $20,000 a month from bingo. You have to know your community. You have to be your community to be able to do that. In Berlin, not long ago, the Arab population started a newspaper in Arabic. The title is The Door, opening. In Nashville, the new immigrant population, the newest and the largest are the Kurds. biggest population of Kurds anywhere in America, in Nashville. They don't have an ethnic media. They have the Salahuddin Center. They meet at mosque, and then they have the iPhone. I realize ethnic media is evolving towards the iPhone as its platform, and of course, the desire to connect, to inform, to give visibility is the same. But also in Nashville, there's this black newspaper, and the headline story last week was, here are the departments of the city and our grading of them for how they deal with the minorities of Nashville, A, B, C, D. The editor is 82, Rosetta Perry. She's a pistol. She's a pistol. And finally, in Denver, there are a lot of Irish in Colorado. They came there for mines and for railroads, and they're still there. And among the many ethnic media in Denver is the Celtic connection. The main reporter is Japanese American. He's fascinated with Celtic culture. His wife is Celt. She's fascinated with Japanese culture. It's very Californian, don't you think? Look, I say this because much of the platforms that I've practiced journalism on, and I'm ashamed to say I'm not much of a techie. I wish I were. But they're struggling to survive. The impulse to witness, to document, to amplify voice, that's as powerful as ever. And what we see as the end of things is always also the beginning of things. I'm there looking at how we are reconfiguring the future on a shoestring. Thank you. You'll be partners.
One last request, Andy. I know you say that you're going out of business, but I know you'll still be around, so please keep in touch. That is the end of the awards, and if you care, it's the bottom of the 8th at the Giants game, so if you want to beat the traffic, you're probably in good shape. That was my intent for trying to hurry us out of here. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Drive safe, and we'll do it again next year. Thank you.